Welcome back to Old School Sports and our OOTP 23 playthrough of the Pittsburgh Pirates. We are about midway through the 2043 season, and it has been a magical season for the Pirates thus far. 57-31 record, 4 games clear of the Cardinals in the NL Central. So our goal of reaching the playoffs is, don't want to say well in hand, but we're certainly on pace to achieve that goal. It was an interesting offseason this past year for the Pirates. We ended up having to move on from Ricky Gotti, who had been one of our top starting pitchers for quite some time. He was looking for way too much money than we could afford. Also moved on from our catcher, our third baseman, a first baseman, and a DH that we had on the team for, in the case of the third baseman, who was previously a shortstop, 3 or 4 seasons, the catcher a whole year, and then the first baseman and DH were players that we picked up at the trade deadline last year to help us get into the playoffs, which we did do. But we did not have the budget to bring any of them back, paying their arbitration numbers. So we traded all of them away, had a pretty uneventful offseason, but the moves that we've made are working out decently so far. We made a trade for Ricky Rios, who's got a 3.16 ERA and 51 and a third innings in relief. Made a trade for Manny Collazo, who's got a 2.25 ERA, 53 strikeouts, and 24 saves and 40 innings worked. So those guys have both been nice additions. And then most importantly, we recently brought up Jose Montoya, who we picked up in a trade a little over a year ago, right before the 2042 season, for one of the top prospects in baseball. And he is 3-1 with a 2.52 ERA, making not his major league debut, because he did pitch one game when he was with the Angels organization back in 2041, but is consistent being a member of a major league team debut, and he's pitched really well so far. And then in the everyday players, the additions have worked out decently so far also. Nelson Ibarra, catcher that we traded for, hitting just 230 with 6 homers and 243 at-bats. But he is an exceptional defensive catcher. If he can continue to kind of be a 230 hitter who's going to get double-digit home runs for us with the defense that he's providing, that's a pretty nice addition for us. We also traded for Juan Rivera, who's filled a utility infielder role for us, hitting just 248. He could become a starter for us at some point down the line, but versatile and reasonably decent defensive player with a little bit of a bat. Happy to have him on board. But the big addition has been bringing up Henry Gonzalez, who was our number 1 overall pick in 2038, first year of this playthrough. Didn't bring him up until the start of May to manipulate his service time. All he's done since joining us on May 1st is win 2 consecutive National League Rookie of the Month awards. For the year, he's hitting .321 with 14 home runs, so a definite prospect for him to win a Rookie of the Year award, which, if I think about it, may defeat the purpose of us manipulating his service time. I want to say that there's something in the new CBA if someone finishes in the top X of the MVP voting, or also I think if they win a Rookie of the Year award, I don't know that it accelerates their time to free agency, but I think it does make it so that the service time manipulation may not hold. I could be wrong on that. If any of you know the answer for sure, let me know down in the comments. And it also may not be completely modeled in OOTP 23, given that the game came out pretty shortly after all of that nonsense was resolved. But trying to manipulate his service time, whether he's so good that I'm unsuccessful with that, who knows. But expecting it to be a busy month of July, we have made an offer to an international amateur free agent, waiting to hear back from him. We just made that earlier today to Danny Petrie. Hopefully get him on board to join us. We've got the All-Star game coming up next week. We've got the amateur draft. And then we're going to have to figure out what, if anything, we want to try to add to this team. We've only got a little bit of money to take on salaries, but with the way that we are playing so far, we are going to pour everything we possibly can into going for it this season. Got a chance to win the Pirates, and we got to try to take it. And we made it to the All-Star break. It was kind of a rough start to the month for the Pirates, going just 2-3. Our lead in the division is a little bit thinner now, with the Cardinals having won 6 in a row. It's down to 1 game. Clearly they're playing incredibly well. Don't think they're going to keep playing at that pace, but certainly our preference is going to be to win the division rather than to try to find ourselves in a wild card battle again. Taking a look at the All-Star Game rosters, let's see what this really nice first half means for the Pirates in terms of the number of All-Stars we're going to have this year. Tony Santana, longtime ace, back-to-back, not back-to-back, it was 2041 when he made it, but his second All-Star appearance, having a brilliant year, 13-0 record, 268 ERA, 197 batting average against. He struck out 134 in 111 innings. He is one of the few players that we have paid up to stay on our team. We've let most of the guys who have come up through our system move on, but we felt that Santana was a cornerstone of our rotation. Liked him a little better than Ricky Gotti, and he was also a little younger than Ricky Gotti, so we ended up making the early commitment to Santana and ultimately moving on from Ricky Gotti, and thus far he's rewarded us for that. So nice to see Santana named an All-Star for the second time. And then our new closer, Manny Collazo, who we picked up in the trade with Baltimore. Actually, he's not our new closer. He's been with us for over a year now, but he is a back-to-back All-Star. Each of the last 2 seasons, 2.20 ERA, over 41 innings pitched for us. I think I said that he was one of our new additions at the beginning of the episode. If I did, I messed that up. I was thinking of a guy who is unfortunately on the injured list right now. We picked up Collazo a year ago, but Mario Tolka is the guy that we traded for this past offseason. He was 3-2 with a save, 171 ERA over 26 and a third innings. Still out for about another week with the strained oblique. Hopefully he will be back soon, but I did misspeak when I said at the beginning of the episode that Collazo was a new addition last offseason. He was not. He's been with us for a year. Any offensive players on the All-Star team? Our offense this year has been much better than in previous seasons. And it looks like we do have 2. And wow, Henry Gonzalez, even after missing the first month of the season, named an All-Star. I mean, that's going to happen when you're hitting .317 with 14 home runs in your first 200 at-bats and you're a former number 1 pick overall. But Henry Gonzalez, his first year in the majors, is an All-Star, and he will be joined in the outfield by our good friend, if I could click on him properly, Isaiah Hill. 5th season in the majors and his 5th All-Star appearance, 2-time MVP, Rookie of the Year, 4-time Silver Slugger. Hopefully will be a 5th after this season, having another monster year for us. Similar to Santana, Isaiah Hill is the only other big-time player that we've signed. After next season, when he's set to make $18 million, that was his last arbitration-eligible year, and that $18 million was a few million under what he likely would have been making. But you can see that these numbers start getting up to market levels for a player with his bat. It's going to be tough for us to retain him through those seasons. We're going to have a lot of success on the field, have a lot more fans in the seats. We haven't been able to generate a ton of fan interest, and the fan loyalty here in Pittsburgh is pathetic, and the market size is small. So we're doing our best to get the budget moving in the right direction, but thus far we haven't had a lot of luck with Bob Nutting in terms of making progress there. But good to see 4 All-Stars for the Pirates again this year, and hopefully the second half will be just as successful as the first half has been for this squad. And the Pirates playing good coming out of the All-Star break with wins in our first two games, one-run victories over the Phillies. Got a game against them tomorrow, and then a big two-game series at the Cardinals, which with the Cardinals now having lost two in a row, they're still lurking three behind us, but would be nice to take that series in St. Louis and open up a little more breathing room for us. Headed to the first-year player draft now, which is going to be good for us. We're picking 23rd this year. That's the one benefit of the regular season record being a key driver of your draft spot. We did make it all the way to the NLCS last year, but we did not do all that great in the regular season. We're kind of the last team in, the third wild card in the National League. Looking at the draft order, we're picking 23rd. And then we also do have a pick that will be 40th in the draft. That is our compensatory selection for the loss of Ricky Gotti that we mentioned earlier. And while we're talking about Gotti, let's see how he's doing this season for his new Chicago Cubs team. Oh, torn labrum, out for 9 months. Oh, I do feel bad about that. He was pitching well in his limited action, 1-0 with a 2.20 ERA. He had been a really good pitcher for us throughout this playthrough. Ended up signing for 18 this year and then 21 for each of the next 5 years after that. So averaging a little bit over $20 million a year, $20.5 million a year for the course of his contract. Don't know if that would have happened if he was still with us. Obviously, with a pitcher, you never know. He is normal injury proneness, so not as risky as some pitchers. But if his labrum was hanging on by a string and he was going to be gone in 15 or 20 innings of this season, makes me feel a little better that we moved on from him. And we will see if we can bring on someone who could be a good replacement for him someday with that 40th pick that we got in return for making the qualifying offer to him that he decided to move on from. And we've gotten to our 23rd selection in the draft, and I think that's a lucky number. Those of you who have been watching the series know that in real life I'm a New York Yankees fan, and it's always good to think of Donnie Baseball, Don Mattingly, number 23. There's also a player who back in the 80s and 90s had a bit of success in the NBA wearing number 23. So I think that's a good pick for us. We're going to get someone who's going to make a difference 3 or 4 years from now. We'll take a look at the kind of top prospects of the position players and pitchers, and then I'll kind of go offline, do a little more digging into everyone, and let you know what I decide. First baseman Nick Gunn, awful defensively. He is 6'4", so he can handle first base okay. Not looking for a ton of money. Looks like a potentially decent bat, like the work ethic. I would hope to get something better than him, but seems like a pretty clean prospect. Tony Ham, the second baseman, I do like that bat. Wish he had a little more speed to go with it. He's listed as a second baseman. He's really not a great infielder. He's 6'1", so you could play him at first base. You could play him at left field if you had to. Not a bad bat. The issue with him is I just don't know where he's going to play in the field where you're going to feel good about it. Third baseman Jose Lugo. Looks like an interesting bat. Does look like a third baseman with that great arm and acceptable-ish range. Don't love the low work ethic. Do love the durability. Bonus demand is pretty high for this point in the draft, I think. We'll see. Rudy Pellerin, center fielder. He's a little more interesting to me. He's durable. Looks like he could have a good bat. Wouldn't love playing him in center field. You'd prefer to play him in left. Could play him in right. And then Harry Robertson, second baseman. Again, he's not really a second baseman. Doesn't really have a position to play. And the bat looks like it could be decent, but not great. These are probably the kind of guys that we're dealing with at the 23rd pick in the draft. Maybe I'm a little ambitious into what I'm expecting to see. But we'll take a look at Rogelio Terrazas, 18-year-old. He's kind of more interesting. The bat is not incredible, but the glove definitely can play second base. You can play him at short or third. You'd prefer better range and error at short. You'd prefer a better arm at third, but at least he's a respectable defensive player and a decent second baseman. Got some speed. He's durable, and it looks like he could have a decent bat. He is older for a high school senior, almost 19 years old, but I'm kind of more intrigued by him than most of the other guys that we've looked at. Turning to the pitchers, only one guy stands out as still a 4-star candidate, but there's a bunch of 3.5-star potential guys. Jose Utrea, like the durability, looking for a ton of money, like the potential 4-pitch arsenal. He definitely could be a respectable major league pitcher. Unfortunately, our most recent scouting report hasn't come in on him yet, but we still have very high scouting accuracy. So feel like we're kind of going to know what we're getting. I'm going to spend some time offline digging into all of these guys, let you know what I see. I will look at this guy who looks like he's got a great personality, but looks like he's a college pitcher at age 21. Joel Fields. Yeah, great work ethic, intelligence, and leadership. Ooh, it looks like he's a potential two-way player, too. Whoa, hello. And those of you who have been watching know that I do have two-way players turned off in this playthrough, but I can still turn a pitcher into a everyday player if I decide that's what I want to do with him. And he is intriguing. He's an outfielder. He's a left fielder. Could play him in right if you had to. But that bat is intriguing. 65 contact, 70 power. He's got acceptable speed. Also looks like I like him better as a hitter than I do as a pitcher. His control just isn't going to be all that great. His stuff's going to be average at best. Does have a lot of stamina, but he's likely to be a 2-pitch pitcher. I mean, he's almost 22 years old, and that changeup still hasn't developed. I like his personality. Well, I'm going to go do a little more work, but before I do that, let's see who our scout recommends we go with. And he recommends the pitcher Utrera. I don't hate it. I do like the durability. The bonus demand is high. That's going to be a problem for us this year because we've got basically nothing left right now. And we've got $12 million set aside for the draft budget. So if we spend 10.5 on our first round pick, it's going to basically mean we're going to have to go for guys at the bottom of the pay scale with all of our other picks. So it may not be the perfect situation for us. I do like Utrera. I just don't know if we can afford to pay a guy more than $4.5 million over slot this year when we're on such a tight budget. And I think I'm going to go with the pitcher, but not Utrera. I think I'm going to go with Joel Fields and turn him into an everyday player. He's got the best bat, in my opinion, in this draft of the people who are left. I'm assuming there was some studs at the top of the draft, but with 70 power potential, 55 gap power potential, 65 contact potential. He's got a great personality. He's almost 22 years old. He's durable. His bonus demand is dirt cheap. He's an easy signing. I feel like he's a bat who could be helping us in a couple of seasons. I don't think he's an Isaiah Hill bat, but as I was just talking about in terms of the money we're going to be paying Isaiah Hill, we may need to move on from him at some point, and this would not be the worst guy to have in the major leagues playing for us at that time. So we are going to go ahead and draft Joel Fields with our first round pick. I have a feeling there's going to be some interesting guys, and some of the guys that we talked around still available for us when we get to pick number 40. There are a few pitchers that I'm definitely intrigued by out there. I think some of these guys will still be around, some of these starting pitching prospects. So, and now we do have the benefit of having picked up a player who is looking for almost nothing. 290,000 is his demand. So we're going to go ahead and meet that demand, submit the offer to him, and get him way under slot. So that will give us an opportunity to potentially reach a little bit in terms of what we need to pay everyone else in the rest of our draft, particularly whoever we take at the with our pick in the middle of the with our pick that's in between the first and the second rounds. So there's still definitely some of the starting pitchers out there at this point. And among the pitchers, I'm kind of most interested in Xavier Richards and David Vinuesa. Xavier Richards, college pitcher, almost 22 years old, been facing great competition at West Virginia. Looks like he could be a decent starting pitcher at the major league level. Ground ball pitcher, only throwing in the low 90s. Not sure how much more that's going to go up, but he's got great stamina, good at holding runners on. I mean, he's already probably a very good double-A pitcher. Not too long till he could be contributing at the major league level. I don't see him as an ace, but with potential plus stuff, plus movement, and plus control, 3-pitch arsenal, could definitely be a really nice third or fourth starter. So I like him. David Vinuesa, kind of similar. Very good stamina, very good at holding runners, but he's not 19. He's not 19 years old yet. He throws harder already, probably going to increase that. Similarly, he could have plus stuff, movement, and control. Could have a really devastating curveball along with a very good fastball and slider. I do tend to think that his stuff maybe has some upside from that 55 if those 3 pitches really develop to the full extent that they can. And I do like the fact that he's durable. Always like someone who's a little less injury prone, or a little less potential for injuries, I guess would be the way to describe it. But there's still a lot of the position players that we had talked about for our first round pick out there also. And I'm definitely tempted by Rogelio Terrazas. I like the durability with him. He's pretty versatile defensively. He's not a textbook shortstop or third baseman, but he can play those positions. He kind of is a textbook second baseman. He's got some speed. Looks like he could be, with that speed and good contact, really good gap power. Looks like he could definitely hold his own with the bat at the major league level to me. I'm intrigued by him, but I'm also intrigued by Vinuesa. Let's see what our scouting director recommends. Recommends second baseman Harry Robertson. No, thank you. We've already looked at him. He's obviously one of the 3.5-star guys that's out there as far as the position players. So I've got a decision to make. I'll let you know what I decide. I'm going to think about it for a little while before making a rash decision. I really like both of these players for a 40th pick in the draft. Vinuesa, love me a durable starting pitcher. He can go deep, very good at holding on runners, already thrown in the mid-90s as an 18-year-old. As I talked about, I don't think he's an ace, but if he develops, he's a really good 3 or 4, maybe a really good 2. If those 3 pitches develop and his stuff ends up being a little better than our scout expects it to right now, we'll take a look at the OSA ratings for what they're worth, and they tend to be even a little more effusive about his potential. They kind of see the extra stuff that our scout really isn't seeing, as well as some exceptional movement. Now, I trust our scout more, but I do like Vinuesa. But I also like Rogelio Terrazas. He's also durable, Also not looking for an insane amount of money. Like the glove, the ability to kind of play any infield position. Kind of play in the outfield too. I don't know why you would. I like his speed. The bat isn't special. That's what I'm hung up on. Because he's not a shortstop. He's a second baseman, ideally. That's where you feel good about playing him defensively. So he's a good defensive second baseman, durable injury proneness, with a maybe slightly above average bat at the major league level if he completely develops. I'm really tempted by Tarazis, but I feel like the guy who could be a number 3 or 4 starter is a better pick. So we're going to go with Vinuesa. If you've got strong opinions, would love to hear them down below. Please let me know. Obviously, my hope now is that Tarazis somehow falls to us with our next pick, but I think that's pretty doubtful. You can see Ellison and Gutierrez, the two guys who don't have great personalities and are really more relievers, are left among the 3.5-star pitchers. Let's take a look at the batters. Yeah, and unfortunately, Harry Robertson, the guy that our scout suggested we pick last round, and Nick Gunn are the only 3.5-star potential guys left. Dave Aviles I had looked at earlier, kind of offline. His bat is interesting. His personality is interesting. He's durable. He's definitely a prospect here. Obviously wish that Tarazis had fallen to us, but those are the trade-offs you make. Scouting director still hung up on Harry Robertson. I just don't see it. The bat, to me, is... You don't want to play him anywhere in the infield. You don't even really want to play him in the outfield. He's a left fielder or a first baseman. And to me, the bat isn't special enough to chase after him right now. I'll take a look at these catchers too, see if there might be a prospect there. Let you know what I decide. I doubt it's going to be Robertson, though. And I'm definitely not going to go with Harry Robertson. I am a little intrigued by Keel Parson. To me, he's a better version of Robertson. He's a little better defensively. Still has an interesting bat. Not going to walk all that much, but I would take him over Robertson. But I'm still leaning towards Dave Aviles. He's got the most home run power out of all of them. He's durable. He's going to have a major league bat. He's a left fielder or a first baseman at 6'6", or a DH. You can play him at right, but you're not going to like it. But I think he's the best bat that's left, and it's by a pretty small margin over Parson. But I prefer the home run power with a little bit better eye, potentially. And I do like the durability that Aviles has. There are a couple pitchers that I'm hoping will fall to me in the 3rd round. There's also a catcher that I'm intrigued by. And clearly, if Parson or Robertson was around in the 3rd round, would consider those guys. But right now, we're going to go with Aviles and hope that one of the second basemen, catcher that I'm interested in, or a starting pitcher that I'm interested in falls to us. Interesting. Parson is still out there. I don't even know if I need to look at the pitchers right now or if I just take him. Again, he's not great defensively. You play him at second and you don't feel great about it. He's 6'2". You could play him at first. You could play him in left field. But he's an interesting potential bat, especially for the 3rd round in a draft. And he is a player who can play in the infield. He's not great defensively. I'm going to just take a look and see if the catcher and or starting pitchers that I was thinking about are also around. don't think that this was the catcher. I think the catcher that I liked is gone now, unfortunately. I don't think it wasn't any of these guys. So the catcher that I was interested in is gone. He was, decent defensively with maybe a below average bat. I would have felt he was a little bit of a reach in the second round. I'm assuming he's gone sometime here early in the third round. Take a look, and there still are, I think, some of the starting pitchers that I was intrigued by. Or maybe not. Maybe they're all gone at this point. Yeah, it looks like the starters that I was most interested in. I didn't mind this guy, Andy Basualdo, but he's fragile. Personality is mixed. Doesn't excite me all that much. It looks like and Willie Martinez is not a guy that I had spent a lot of time looking at before. He's not quite as good as the other guys that I was thinking about. So the catcher and the starting pitcher that I was interested in are gone. The starting pitchers that I was hoping might fall are gone. But we've still got Yakil Parson, who I think is an interesting pick for the third round. So we're going to go ahead with Parson. Oh, we'll see what the scouting director recommends. Yeah, he recommends Parson. There we go. His bonus demand is a little over slot. We'll try to offer him slot first. I'm sure he won't end up going for it, but we'll try to save a little money if we can. And now here in the fourth round, Nick Gunn is still around. He is durable. He's got good work ethic. He's going to hit some home runs. You're never going to feel good playing him anywhere, whether it's first base or left field. He's a pure DH, but he's a DH that should have a ability to hit 270 with 25, 30 home runs if everything works out. It's not the worst prospect in the world for a mid to late fourth round pick. Pitchers, there's these relievers on the top of the list, but I guess it's kind of getting to the point where maybe you do take a reliever, but I'd like to take one with a better personality, or at least not a bad work ethic. Martinez is still around for fourth rounder. It's something to think about. Almost 19 years old. Says the signability is impossible, though. What's he looking for? Well, he's looking for an insane amount of money, so that's why he's still around. So we're going to move on from him. Scouting director recommends we go with Leo Battle. Ugh, I don't like that personality. Don't like the fact that he's reliant on a changeup developing to be anything but a reliever. I like the personality of Jesus Guzman, but he's definitely a reliever, no doubt about that. I'm going to keep doing my work. I'll let you know what I decide. I think I'm going to go with Nick Gunn. He's durable. He's a bat. He's a DH. He's got the good work ethic, though. He's got the durability. As I said, he looks to be a guy who's not going to hit a ton of extra base hits, not very fast. He'll walk a little more than average if everything works out, but good contact, decent home run power. Again, a guy who's going to be at 270, maybe 280. I think the lack of speed will keep him from hitting that well, but 270 hitter who can go out and hit 25 home runs is not without value, especially for the fourth round. He may be somebody that has a little value in a trade down the line if he develops a little better than expected. So we're going to go with Gunn here in the third round. Scouting director for the fifth round recommends Brian Garner, Canadian center fielder. Meh, but we're getting to the point of the draft where meh may be about all we can hope for. And we're getting to the point of the draft where things are getting less interesting. I think we're going to go with Javon Peterson. He's kind of toolsy, got plus speed. He can bunt a little bit for a hit. Personality is mixed. I like the work ethic. Don't love the low leadership, loyalty, and intelligence. But if everything breaks the right way, he can be a plus hitter who you could play in the outfield, could play at first base. It's about all you could play. You could play him at third if you really had to, but you'd feel horrible about it. But he's durable, only looking for slot at this point in the draft. If you got a guy who might have some trade value down the line, I think sometimes that's all you're going to get. So through 5 rounds, through 6 picks, if I come across something interesting the rest of the way, I'll talk about it. If I'm back and we're past the draft, you'll know that there was nothing that interesting left. Well, we've gotten to the 9th round, and the Canadian center fielder Brian Garner, that I think our scout suggested we pick in the 5th, is still around. I was meh on him back then. Still kind of meh on him as an overall prospect, but in the 9th round, I think we could do a lot worse. Interestingly, that's not who the scout's recommending we pick here in the 9th. He's recommending we go with Dan Jones. Not a bad pitching prospect, like the durability, but the type of personality that makes me think he's a long shot to make it. He is a potential two-way player, but also just not. He's got power and a decent eye, but with that personality, I just don't have any bid for him. So we're going to go with Brian Garner instead. All right, well, we're past the draft, trying to get everybody signed. Don't have a ton of money to bring on contracts. The good thing is that if we can get our draftees signed over the next couple of weeks, that'll open up a little bit more money for us because we will come in below the $12 million that we had budgeted, given that our first round signing was so inexpensive. So that is potentially positive in terms of taking on some contracts. Other good news, Mario Tolka is back. Jim Quander had been a little better more recently for us, but still a 5.11 ERA in the month plus that he's been up. So we're going to send the youngster back down to AAA, bring Tolka back up onto the Major League roster. Montoya 4-2 now, 3.29 ERA. You can see that our starting pitching has been exceptional this year. Obviously, Santana with that 13-0 record is the most special, but Luis Longoria 7-4, having already spun a no-hitter earlier this year with 162 strikeouts in 106 1/3 innings, is obviously a real important player for us that we're hoping to keep healthy for the playoffs. Because if we can have our 4 pitchers, our top 4 healthy for the playoffs, I feel that we should be in any series that we're fortunate enough to be involved in. Looking at the standings, up 2 on the Cardinals. Both us and them are playing well recently. We'll see how the next couple weeks go, and then we're going to need to make a decision on whether we want to try to add anything in the trade market. And the Pirates continue to play well here as we head towards the end of July. Did get some bad news. Ricky Rios out with a strained shoulder for 6 to 7 weeks. Picked him up in a trade with the Phillies at the end of last season when we were dumping some of our arbitration-eligible players. He's been pretty solid, 3.17 ERA over 59 2/3 innings. Definitely not optimal to lose him, but hopefully the injury is early enough that we should have him back for the postseason. Luis Flores, the young first baseman, hitting 316 this year, also waiting an injury diagnosis on him. So a little banged up. Manho Lee 8 weeks away, so a chance that he would be in the mix for the playoff roster when all is said and done, although he is on the 60-day IL. But we've we've got some openings on the 40 man for when he is healthy. Actually, we got 5 openings on the 40 man because we have waived and DFA'd a couple of those players that we sent down this year, like Bobby Cintrone, Julio Mendoza. So we need to find a pitcher, bring up to the majors, and then we've got a little over a week till we got to decide what we're going to do in terms of making a trade to improve this team potentially. Oh, and I did not mention, I missed it in the excitement, but we did get Danny Pietri signed, who was the $5 million offer we made right at the start of the international amateur free agent period. We made the offer to him at the end of our last episode, but hadn't checked in to see if we got him or not. But he is now at our international complex and one of our top prospects down there at this point, according to our scouts. And we're going to give Cortez Ronquillo a chance at the major league level. He was a decent prospect that we picked up in a trade about 3 years ago with the Royals. Have never had him above AAA. He's now almost 27 years old. Not really a prospect at this point, but I think he's someone who is a ground ball pitcher throwing in the mid to high 90s. Can do a respectable job for us over the next month or so. We do have other guys that we can try to bring up if he doesn't work out, but we'll give him the first shot at being a middle reliever for us at the major league level. And bad news with Luis Flores. He's out with a strained ab for 6 weeks. So that is going to hurt our team a little bit, as I mentioned just before. He was hitting 312, so doesn't have a ton of power, but still a pretty useful major league player for a guy that we picked up in the Rule 5 draft not that long ago. That should allow us to bring last year's National League Rookie of the Year, Sean Barley, back up. He's hit better in Indianapolis than he was hitting in Pittsburgh. I don't think he's going to be an everyday player up here with us, but don't want to totally throw him off of the list of relevant players to us. Hopefully in an occasional pinch hitting at bat here at the major league level, he'll be somewhat productive for us. Speaking of somewhat productive, Ishmael Heel, very good backup defensive catcher, although he's not as good as he used to be. Seems to be trending in the wrong direction as a 32-year-old, but he's hitting acceptably with a 268 batting average. Given that he is trending in a negative way defensively, there is always the option to move on to Adam Fuchs, who I think is a little bit better of a hitter. He's an Iron Man, hitting only 243 in AAA. But we do have some options if we decide we need to change things in the not-so-distant future. And we're about to make an offer to Brian Garner, that 9th round, the Canadian outfielder that we picked up late. His slot should be 0. He's looking for $750,000. We are going to meet his demand and submit that offer to him. The problem as we get closer to the trade deadline is that although we are going to be about $3 million under the amount that we had budgeted, if we don't get these 2 guys signed, I don't think that money's going to flip over and give us any money for free agents. So unfortunately, that means that if we do decide to bring on anybody over the next few days, it's probably going to have to be somebody where we're sending some salary back in return and or just passing enough prospects to the team that we're trading with that they're willing to hang on to the entire salary of whoever they're sending to us. Now, given that we've been so successful this year with the 69-38 record, I don't think we have any huge holes to fill, but clearly if we can bring on someone to give us a better chance of making a long run in the postseason, would definitely be inclined to do that. So another week in the books here on July 27th. Taking a look at the schedule, you can see we've been playing pretty good ball until this last series with Tampa Bay, where we lost 2 out of 3. We've got 4 games at Colorado and then a game at San Diego before the end of the month. Taking a look at our standings, we're only up one on the Cardinals. They've won 6 in a row again, and we've lost 2 in a row, so they've closed the gap on us. The good news is that the Cardinals are up 8.5 games on the third wild card spot, so we are getting to a point in the standings where I feel pretty comfortable with a little over 50 games left that we are going to be a playoff team. But clearly the preference is going to be to win the division and get that first round bye, and that high-powered Cardinals team is not letting up. And the Cardinals remain on fire, so as we make it to the trade deadline day, we're actually out of first place for the first time in a while. They've won 10 in a row, so we are a game behind at this point, up 9 on that third wild card spot, tied with the Mets. Would be interesting if we ended up having to play them again in the postseason. They took a wild card series from us 2 years ago and then beat us in the NLCS last season. So obviously our preference is to win the division and to avoid a first round playoff matchup. But if we end up getting another shot at the Mets, that would not be the worst thing in the world either. Although, as we saw last year, the pitching staff that they have is one of the few in baseball that compared favorably to ours last year. Taking a look at the stats at this point for our team, we've still had a decent July. It's 14-10. It's just the Cardinals have just been playing insane baseball. We're tied for second in runs scored. We're second in runs allowed. So we've got a pretty good team. Certainly could use a better catcher. I don't know if there's going to be anyone available. Always can use more pitching as far as I'm concerned, although the performance of our pitching staff is pretty impressive this year with the players that we have on the team right now. I'm going to look and see who's potentially available. As I mentioned, we don't have any money because we still haven't signed Yekiel Parson or Brian Garner, although we have made them offers that meet their demands, so we will eventually get them signed, I would think. But if we're going to make any trades, it's going to be for either getting rid of someone making some money on our team or getting whoever trades us a player to retain 100% of their salary. So it could be a tough situation here for us. Not sure if we're going to be able to do much of anything. All right, we do have a minor deal that we're going to do. We're going to send starting pitcher J.J. Terrell, who was our 6th round pick last year. Looks like he could be a back of the rotation kind of guy potentially, but he hasn't shown much of anything in rookie ball thus far. And we're going to pick up Nelson Torley and some cash from the Dodgers. Torley is a pretty proven shortstop. He's making $11.9 million, but the Dodgers, with all their money, will keep his contract in exchange for the prospect. He's wrecked physically, but we don't really need him to be anything except a utility infielder for us. He's probably not going to be happy with that role. But this is a guy who's had close to a major league average bat over the course of his career. Pretty versatile player defensively, can play a good second base or shortstop, a very good defensive second base or shortstop. So it gives us another lever to use in that infield if we do have some injuries. Not the most exciting trade in the world. Also doing it, and I hate to say this because he's very popular locally. I don't know if we'll get a bump from that, but I'm trying to press every button I can to sell some more tickets here. So we're going to go ahead and complete the trade. Fan interest increases slightly, so that's probably a 1-point bump in fan interest. Not that exciting, but if it helps us sell a couple more tickets, helps us make a little more revenue, we'll absolutely take it. The cash we got from them does allow us to take on other free agents. Might be one trade involving a pitcher that we could think about, but I don't feel like we have to do that. But now that we've got some money, it might make it a little less painful for us in terms of the prospects that we would need to give up. Torley is banged up right now. We are just going to put him, he's wrecked physically, so we're actually just going to throw him right onto the injured list. Wait till he's completely healthy and then bring him onto the team. would assume that Sean Barley could get sent down, or potentially Omar Vieira or Henry Gonzalez to open up a spot on the roster for him. But we'll see if maybe there's a trade to be made for a relief pitcher also. Again, I don't think we've got a huge need, but at this point, if we can add a popular player and also improve our team a little bit, it's probably the right thing to do. And we do have a deal together. We're going to bring on the relief pitcher, Angel Calvan, who can actually also start. He's really just an insurance policy for us. He's kind of a league average-ish type pitcher in my view, although he has definitely been above league average over the course of his career. Nice stuff, 3-pitch arsenal. He's durable. He's making $18 million, so I guess I may be underselling how good he's been over the course of his career. A lefty arm, which we could use another of. Doesn't throw all that hard. I don't see him pitching critical innings for us in the playoffs. But if we do get our starting rotation banged up at all, he's kind of a proven major league pitcher who could fill in as a number 5 starter for us. If not, another lefty out of the pen, which we've kind of been lacking all season. The Astros will keep 80% of his salary if we put in the starting pitcher, Marcelino Recchia, who was a scouting discovery a few years ago. Finally moved from the international complex to rookie ball this year. 1-7 record, 7.36 ERA. He's only 19 years old. It's the early stages of his career, but certainly don't expect him to be a big-time player. So if we can get an insurance arm, that'll help us. And, of course, Calvin is also very popular, so maybe we get a little boost to attendance from him as we keep trying to play that game. We're going to go ahead and complete the deal, bring Angel Calvin on board. Did get a small boost to fan interest. I'm guessing it's only a 1-point boost. But I feel like we've done a little bit here down the stretch to hopefully get some more fans in the seats and give us a couple of proven major league players who can help us out down the stretch, particularly if we have some injuries. So unfortunately for Mr. Cortez Ronquillo, he is going to head back to AAA. Could see him again, but we're going to put Calvan right into the major league roster, obviously, 26-man. Yeah, I was thinking they might put him right into the rotation. I don't know if I love that because Omar Gaona has been so good as a lefty for us this year. I actually think I'm going to... Calvan, he is a proven major league pitcher, though. I'll defer to my manager. Gaona has been so good this year. Is a 5th starter for us. 3.80 ERA, 7-6 record over 118 and a third innings. That I feel like we're messing with something that's working by taking him out of the rotation. But Calvan is a pretty established major league pitcher, too. I tell you what, I'm going to overrule our manager. I don't think we need to mess with something that's working. So we're going to force Calvan into a relief role. That puts Gaona back into the rotation. Calvan does at least give us another left-handed arm in addition to the closer, Manny Collazo, that can be used out of the pen. And I think that's it for what we're going to do with this trade deadline. And we lost yesterday after we completed our trades, so as the month of August begins, we're now a game and a half behind the Cardinals. I don't know that the trades we made are going to have a huge impact on the pennant race unless we have some injuries, but I felt like we got a little bit of insurance for our pitching staff, including our starting rotation. And we got a little bit of insurance for our infield. I think we're a better team today than we were yesterday, and we didn't have to give up any big-time prospects to get that done. So from that perspective, I think it makes sense, the moves that we made. Obviously, would love to win the division. It's a team that's second in the National League in runs scored, second in runs allowed. We've put together 4 out of 5 months we had a winning record, and even the month that we didn't, we were 500. Feel like the season's going really well. And when I look at the expanded standings, we're 2 games worse than we should be theoretically, and the Cardinals are 3 games better than they should be. We have turned around our record in the 1-run games from that brutal start that we got off to, but I think we're in the mix for the division. Obviously would be a massive collapse and a massive disappointment if we don't at least make the playoffs this season. But I think the chances of that happening are pretty low. We're up 9 on the 3rd wild card spot at this point. So that would be a legendary type of collapse for us to not make the playoffs. But I still think we can compete with the Cardinals. I mean, we've lost 6 games on them in the standings in the last 10 games. So we've gone from 4.5 up to 1.5 down. We've hit a bad stretch. They've been obviously playing incredible baseball. But I don't think this NL Central division is over. And we're going to find out in our next episode. Until then, thanks so much for watching, and hope you have a great day.